everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Kandid, Kaiya. Are you currently in the process of applying to law school? Well, stay tuned to hear more about the application process from Taylor. So thank you so much for coming on today's episode.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, let's start with letting the viewers know a little bit about yourself.
Okay, hi, my name is Taylor Ridley. I'm 23 years old and I'm from Hampton, Virginia, and I graduated from Spelman College in May of 2015.
So standard tests are a critical component to all graduate school applications, really.
Yes.
So in your case, the LSAT
Yes.
is your standardized test. So tell us a little bit about what the LSAT is.
The LSAT is the law school admissions test. It's composed of 5 sections and it's 4 hours long. So the sections are broken up. It's 2 logical reasoning sections, a logic game section, a reading comprehension section, and 1 section that's experimental. It's not graded or anything, but they need it to kind of have data for the next testing cycle. I would advise anyone to prepare for about 4 to 5 months studying for the LSAT, depending on your schedule. You could probably squeeze it out in 2 if you're, not working. That's all you're doing all day. But I would definitely try to stretch it out for 4 to 5 months.
All right. So how many times can you take the LSAT?
You can take the LSAT up to 3 times within a 2-year window.
3?
After that, yeah. Hey, y'all, use those chances. And after that, you have to wait like a certain time period before you can take it again.
How many times did you take the LSAT?
I took the LSAT twice. I took it in October of 2015 after I graduated, and again the following year in June.
Okay, so there's the October and June scheduling. Okay, gotcha. So you took it twice. Tell us a little bit about your overall studying process.
My studying process, wow. So for the first time I took the LSAT, I did your standard prep course. I used Test Masters here in Atlanta. But I think the caveat for me was trying to prepare for the LSAT and working my first full-time job after graduating. So, I would go to class and think, oh, this is great. Like I'm attending class, I'm, being attentive. But in reality, I wasn't getting the preparation I needed because I wasn't doing homework or I wasn't doing, proper studying outside of class. So I unfortunately did not fare well on the October LSAT. So in June, I spread my studying out over about 5 months. I did much more preparation. I took several practice tests, which is a major key to doing well on the LSAT. And I fared much better in June. I saw like almost a 10-point score increase.
With the practice test, where were you scoring? Were you scoring about what you thought you would? Were they totally the opposite of what you thought you were doing?
So I saw definitely an upward trend. I think everyone's going to see that with their preparation.
Mm-hmm.
And I scored on the actual LSAT like 1 point below my highest peak with my preparation. So it was great.
All right. So you just told us about the scoring a little bit. So tell us, what type of score or what range do you have to have for a top 20 or so law school?
Right. So the LSAT is scored from 120 to 180, 180 being the highest. And I would say for a top 20 school, it really depends on the rest of your application, but I would say you're safe 160 and up to getting into a really amazing school. But honestly, it depends on factors like your GPA. If you have a higher GPA and like a great resume, great personal statement, your LSAT score could be a little lower, maybe a little bit more forgiving with that. So it just depends on your application as well. I personally study for about 3 hours a day, and then Saturdays and Sundays I would do practice tests at the same time that the test would be offered on my test day. So at noon each day I would do a practice test.
Okay, good tips. All right, so we pretty much covered the LSAT. Now that you've taken that, you're ready to apply to law school.
Yes.
All right, tell us what the law school application consists of.
The law school application is honestly pretty straightforward. You give your basic demographic information, your GPA, you need your college transcripts, of course. You need anywhere from 2 to 3 letters of recommendation. Most schools won't accept more than 4. And you need a personal statement, which is a very key part of the law school application as well.
All right, so that's good to know. So really, there's no essays?
Just the personal statement, honestly. It depends on the school. They might have an optional opportunity for an additional essay, but the personal statement is the main essay that they would consider in your application. The personal statement is very important, first of all, because outside of that, your law school application is really just numbers, your LSAT and your GPA. But the personal statement is the truest way that an admissions committee can see who you are. So really, it's your way of just saying, what are your passions? It doesn't necessarily have to be why do you want to go to law school or why do you want to be a lawyer. I personally wrote about my passions. Just a few do's and don'ts. Don't recant your resume because they'll have it already. Don't just say your life story in chronological order. They probably get bored with that. And a few do's is just keep them engaged. They're reading thousands of applications. It's not necessary to stand out in a crazy way, but just make sure that they're not skipping over you.
All right. Cool. All right. And everyone, this should be pretty easy to write.
I wouldn't say easy.
Okay.
It should be your best piece of work, writing, as far as writing is concerned. So I would take a solid 2 months to write it. I know that's how long it took me, several drafts. Send it to lots of people, have them edit it, no typos, no grammar issues, none of that. Just submit your best work.
Okay, and the same personal statement can be pretty applicable to all law schools.
Pretty much, unless the prompt changes, you might have to tweak it a little bit. Some people have different page requirements, but other than that, you can pretty much use the same statement.
Okay, good to know. All right, so with the recommendations, how many? You said 2 that you have to have, 2 to 3. So who did you ask?
I asked an English professor from when I was at Spelman, and I asked someone from work as well.
Okay, so can you use the same recommenders for your entire law school
exactly
process?
What I did.
So were they the exact same recommendations?
Exact same recommendations.
Okay.
You just have to make sure that in the letter they make it generic if you're going to do that. Dear Law School Admissions Committee, not Dear Georgetown. That would be bad. Did that and send it to Howard.
Right, exactly. Okay, so what if you're someone who is a little farther removed from college, let's say 10 years or so out? Who could they ask?
If you're removed from college, definitely it's expected that you would ask someone that you work with to write a recommendation letter on your behalf. Really, it's just important that you seek someone who just knows you as a person. That's really all they want. It's just another way to see you as a person.
Right.
See if you'd be a good fit for their law school.
Exactly. And knows you outside of family.
Yes, outside of family.
So Taylor, clearly you're giving us great tips on the LSAT and the law school application process. So how many law schools did you apply to?
Oh man, I applied to 14 law schools.
Okay, so 14 law schools. Yes. Have you gotten any acceptances yet?
I have. I applied pretty early in the cycle, but to date I have been accepted to 9 law schools.
9.
Great.
That's amazing. 9 out of 14 for now. So with your 14 applications, was there some sort of simplified tool that you were able to utilize to apply?
Right. So the only way you can really apply to law school is through the Law School Admissions Council.
Okay.
So it's essentially a website you go to, and you can log in as a future JD student to set up an account, and that's how you register for the LSAT, pay for the LSAT, and complete all your law school applications. So it's like a big portal. You can just select your schools, create a school list, and view their applications, and then submit them as such.
So we covered the LSAT preparation and the law school application. Now, how much would all that roughly cost?
Oh, wow. So the LSAT alone is very expensive. It costs $175 to just register for the LSAT. That's not even including, prep materials, prep tests, all of that. My course was $1,500. But, there's ways around it. You can ask someone if, they have some old books you can use. So it doesn't have to be crazy expensive, but you should budget some money for the LSAT. As far as applying to law school, I would definitely recommend going to the LSAT law school fairs and thinking about getting fee waivers. That cuts about $70 per application that you won't have to pay. But every app you will have to pay a report fee, which is $30 per application. Okay. So I probably spent a couple $100 on law school application just from that.
A couple hundred can add up real fast.
Real fast.
So Taylor, now I want to get just a little bit of your advice. What are some of your tips to staying committed to the LSAT?
I think the best way to stay committed, this is the honest and hard truth, is that it is probably the most significant part of your law school application. So if you do not do well, you will more than likely not be going to schools that you want to go to. That's just the hard truth of that. And they put a lot of weight on the LSAT. So
All right.
stay committed through that.
Yeah, stay committed through knowing that the only way you're getting in is if you take
well.
it.
Unless
Right.
you have like a 4.0, you need to do really well on the LSAT.
Okay, good tips. All right. So what advice do you have for a standout law school application?
Just take your time. I took a lot of time over the summer to perfect my application, and I was able to submit early. But if you're not able to do that, really just take your time and put the best work forward. You know, you can submit all the way up until April. Like, just really take your time, make sure it's absolutely perfect.
My last question is just simply, what is your advice for aspiring lawyers like yourself everywhere?
Gotcha. So my advice is really simple. Never stop believing in yourself. And it comes with a quick story. So last summer, before I applied to law school, I went to a law school fair in Washington, D.C. And I felt, after meeting with some recruiters, I wanted some really unbiased advice for my law school application. Like, I had talked to friends, family about my numbers and everything. But I said, let me talk to someone here and see if I can get some better insight. So I met with a man and I told him, my LSAT and my GPA, and I told him I had dreamed of going to Georgetown since I was like 19 years old. And he just looked at me and simply said, you shouldn't even consider applying to Georgetown. You'll never get in. He told me some other, schools I never heard of to apply to. They would be better suited for me. So I said, thank you for your time, and I left. I felt very, very defeated after that day. And it kind of made me take a second look at myself and think, wow, like, should I even apply to all these schools I'm considering? And Georgetown was actually the only school that I did not get a fee waiver from. So I was like, do I really want to pay, over $100 to a school that I'm not even going to get into? Lo and behold, I applied to Georgetown, and I got accepted a few weeks ago. And it was really a testament of faith for me, and I just have to thank God for blessing me with people who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. So I think the biggest way to just get through this, law school hurdle and getting to be a lawyer is just continue to believe in yourself.
And that is a wonderful piece of advice, Taylor.
Yeah.
I mean, not to mention she got into 9 out of 14 schools. So that's a testament within itself.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sister girl. All right, so that concludes today's interview. We hope that you all learned so much about the LSAT and the law school application process,
Yes.
or maybe something new. So, Taylor, tell us, just list a couple of the 9 that we may find you at next fall.
You might find me at Georgetown, yay, Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt, or University of Virginia.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
All right, so those are words of advice from our aspiring lawyer. All right, everyone, we hope you enjoyed today's interview. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them below and we'll make sure that they get answered. Thank you so much for tuning in,
Thank you.
and keep going. We'll see you next time.